Yes, anyway, 22 minutes past 5. The covidsafe app, have you downloaded it? Was it seamless? Are you frustrated with it? Are you still trying to do it? Do you have an issue with the app? Do you have a question about how it might work? There's been, so many theories about whether it's good, whether it's bad, if the data is stored by a US company, if a China company has access to it, if it's buggy. Geoffrey Huntley will join me next. He's a software engineer. So we'll talk all COVID-safe related material up next.
Thanks,
this
Jules.
is Jules Schiller
on ABC Radio Adelaide.
Now, if you haven't been across the COVID-safe debate, the app, it's a pretty simple app. Well, it seems simple the way it's explained. It's an app which aims to speed up the process of identifying people who may have been exposed to COVID-19. So it uses Bluetooth to record encrypted IDs from nearby devices that have also installed the app. So pretty much if I have the app and I've been around you for a certain amount of time and you have the app, and they say, Jules, you have COVID-19, it allows health authorities to download material from my app and call you saying, you've been around Jules, you should go and get yourself a test. So, look, it seems like a really good idea, which is why over 3 million of us have already downloaded it. Of course, that still means that there's, 18, 19 million of us. What's the population of Australia? 20 million of us who haven't, 22 million of us who haven't. So the majority of us haven't downloaded the app. We're probably still wanting to have some questions answered about how it works. And it's also quite buggy. So 1300 222 891 if you've had problems with the app and you'd like to talk to an expert. I'm joined by one now. His name is Geoffrey Huntley. Welcome, Geoffrey.
Thank you for having me on board tonight.
Now, this has been a big issue, and I'm sure we're going to get some calls and texts on this. Firstly, people have problems signing up to the app, especially on Android phones. What's that about?
Sure. That's one of the things I really want to help people with tonight is the onboarding of and registering for the application. So on Android phones and also iPhones, people are commonly saying that their mobile number is incorrect. That is a bad error message. Essentially, what is happening is it looks like it's blocking connections from people outside of Australia, but it's misconfigured and it's essentially blocking people that are in Australia. So the workaround is simple. Change your network connection. Register when you're on 4G, or if you're on 4G and you're having problems, just enable Wi-Fi. Just turn Wi-Fi on and off and you'll be able to register.
If you've got an overseas number, you can't access it, can you, at the moment?
That's correct. So the application's built with a limitation that it says that you must have a +61 number. There's no mitigation for this. So if you're a backpacker or you're roaming from overseas, you cannot register with the application.
We'll get to some calls while we're discussing this. Michael has called from Glenelg North, 1300 222 891. Michael, what's your question or observation?
Yeah, hi, Jules, and I forget the guy's name now.
Jeffrey.
Hi, Jeffrey. Yeah, I've got a phone that's only about a year old. It's a Telstra Android phone, and I went to Google Play, Jeffrey, and tried to download it, and it said incompatible with my device.
Jeffrey, why would that be?
Yeah, so specifically with Android, devices, it takes a while for people to sorry, let me say that again. So with Android itself, one thing that we're investigating is that the Singapore application, which the Australian application is based upon, actually has lower requirements, and it should be compatible for you. But for some reason, the Australian version requires higher requirements and requires a newer phone, and we can't explain it, and we'd love to find out why, because it should work. The application in Australia is based off the Singapore application, so I'm not sure. I'm easily contactable on social media. I would love for you to contact me, and so we can start collecting that data.
Jeffrey, usually when there's a problem with an app, you can report it or raise an issue, and people can work on fixing it. Is there a mechanism in the app to say I'm having a problem with it?
Yeah, so there is a mechanism in the application. There's a report a bug functionality. Last time I saw there's about 9,000 tickets in there. So I'm not sure how they're doing with the response. I have not seen any social media management team responding to people that are having problems on social media at this stage.
Simone has called from Mitcham. Good day, Simone.
Hello. Good evening, Jules and Geoffrey, and thanks for discussing this.
So I've downloaded the app and I haven't had any difficulties. And I'm a high school teacher, so let's imagine in an ideal world my students have all downloaded it, which they haven't because they're concerned about Bluetooth, but that's another issue. I'm wondering if I have my phone sitting at the front of the classroom and then I wander around and work with the students and perhaps only spend 14 minutes at a desk, does that mean none of those students will register at all on the app?
That's a very good question, Simone. So Geoffrey, what I understand or what was told to us, if, it registers people that you've been in, 1.5 metres of for longer than 15 minutes. Is that how the app works?
It's not how the application works. It's one of the things I found incredibly confusing, that there's been no technical officer provided to answer these questions. So how the application works internally is it does not use GPS. Let me be clear, it does not use GPS. It uses Bluetooth. Bluetooth is radio-based, and Bluetooth has the properties of transmission strength. If you're able to connect to someone because they have the application running, and how long it's connected to. And all the processing for distance is all done server side. So if you find out that you be tested positive for COVID, you have to consent to upload your data. And if you consent to upload your data, which requires a SMS PIN, then they do server-side processing on that data, and there's a mathematical model that's done by the Singapore team that's quite amazing, actually. It's quite smart to do it this way. But the application itself does not have any logic for like distance and proximity to people. That's not how the application works.
So does that mean it can register someone 10 metres away from you?
What it does is it looks for, when you're running the application, it's essentially creates a background program, and that goes and it listens for people running covidsafe, and at the same time it launches another background program that advertises that it's running covidsafe. So it's a listener and receiver, and what it's doing is essentially listening and receiving and searching for people who are running covidsafe, and then recording some metadata about that. And later, if you get contacted that you test positive, then you upload that data, and then that model is applied.
So in Simone's case, if she leaves her phone on the table for 14 minutes, it is going to record those kids.
Correct.
If they have the app, yes. Is there a problem if you have the app on an iPhone and the iPhone is locked? I'm hearing it doesn't work as well.
Yeah, so we've just started our efforts to reverse engineer the iPhone application. Ever since launch, we're focusing on the Android application. We don't have the source code for the applications, but because of our knowledge, we're able to look at the source code and decompile. So on the topic of iOS and Android, iOS does have some problems. So it's not problems. iOS does have a different way of how it's implemented. Normally when an application goes into the background after a period of inactivity, when you actually see that application, you look at all the applications running, it's not actually an application, it's a screenshot. So we've just started our analysis on the iOS application. We really are calling for the source code for the iOS application to be released. We believe we have some findings on how to make the application more effective, and we're trying to get in contact with people in the government to actually have communication with us about it.
So is it better, Geoffrey, for the government to release the source code, get people like yourself around Australia working on it to improve it? Well, I mean, is that an issue with you? I mean, do you think they should have done that?
Definitely. So a couple of things. Ever since launch day, I've been looking at this application and publishing findings. I haven't had much sleep. And it wasn't scaling, so decided to build a community of other researchers. And we've got engineers from the Singapore team who actually built the application the Australia one is based upon. Just having the source code available doesn't 100% tick the criteria for a lot of privacy and security researchers, because just because the source code is available, you don't know if that's the actual one that's running on people's phones. So what we've done is we've taken the actual application and looked at the actual one that's on people's phones, and we'll be able to certify, yes, it's safe, yes, you should install it. But having an open community means essentially what I've been doing is pro bono work, and a lot of people are doing pro bono work for the community, but we haven't had much engagement back from the government. We have had acknowledgement from Greg Hunt relating to our work, which is lovely, but we haven't had engineer-to-engineer conversations.
So do you think, I mean, there's still, like I said, there's still 22 million Australians that haven't downloaded it, Geoffrey. Have you? I mean, do you feel safe with it?
I have installed it, and when one of the things, if you dig a little bit further into some of the findings, there's a prototype that actually shows what the application looks like, so we can actually demonstrate what the application looks like without installing it. And all those screenshots is me enrolling into the application, and that was once I finished my analysis and was happy that it's safe.
So just to end, Geoffrey, I mean, they need to design this app so it fits on older phones, because not everyone has new versions of iOS and the Android software, don't they? But they need to keep refining this app so it can go out to a wider array of smartphone owners.
That is correct. There's a lot of talk about download metrics of how many people have downloaded it, but I think that's more of a vanity metric. I want to see looking at a different type of metric of like the amount of people on social media or in the app stores leaving reviews it's not working and seeing that dropping. That would be a much better metric.
That's a very good point, and I haven't thought about that, Geoffrey, because, I mean, this is a different type of app. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're trying to download like a social media app or a game. I mean, you expect it not to work on an older model of phone, but this is a different app. I mean, this is a crucial public health app, and it needs to be a lot more kind of accessible, doesn't it?
I completely agree. We've had people review it and they believe it fails accessibility standards. So if you're using assistant technology, you'll have problems enrolling. You'll need a third-party person to use it. There's actually a screen in the application that says that you've tested positive for COVID. We identified that on launch day, and it still has not been resolved. And unfortunately, I saw a news article yesterday where a woman in Frankston, Victoria, has taken that very factually because it is the government application, and they thought she was being diagnosed with COVID, and she went into full lockdown. It was really sad, and that was identified on launch day and communicated and has not been resolved.
Geoffrey Huntley, fascinating chat. We might chat again. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me on tonight.
That's Geoffrey Huntley, a software engineer working on the covidsafe app. Coming up
Thank you so much, Geoffrey. That was really good.
From Lano and Woodley will join me because they've got
take care. We'll be in touch.
Their live show,
mate.
Fly, streaming on Amazon Prime. Let's get to the news desk. Wendy Glamacek is standing